Howdy, kids. I hope you brought your rose-tinted glasses because it's time to pack it up and live in the past for just another few fleeting moments. I like it in the past. I don't have to face my sins there. Today we're talking about the marketing of Halo, specifically the good stuff. What was so good about it? And when do it be less good? Let's talk about it. Halo 3 was just cool. Of course, that probably depended on your social circles, but at least for me it was. Back in the late 2000s, Halo was the cool thing. This was a time before Marvel had bridged the gap between pop culture and nerd culture. Being a nerd was still a loser thing, not the norm that it is now. Video games were only just beginning to gain a mainstream appeal as something not just for kids, and while everybody knew what a Mario was, they also knew that he was a little kiddie thing, a toy man for baby people. New games at the time began to change that perception by appealing to older and broader audiences. Halo, Call of Duty, Madden, GTA, these among many others were a huge part of making gaming a more regular part of an adult lifestyle. What I'm trying to say is that video games were still, at least in my understanding at the time, considered either for children or for nerds. But Halo, that was a real man's game. You tell a girl you're playing The Force Unleashed 2 and she'd call you a dork, probably spit in your face too. But say you're playing Halo and you'd get no such response. Halo 3 had a certain feeling, a vibe if you will, that held the game up on a pedestal, where it remains more or less to this day. There are plenty of reasons for this, all of them horrifically subjective, but to me the biggest reason was Halo 3's marketing was absolutely on point, so much so that it alone practically carried the Halo title into becoming a household name. The Starry Night trailer by itself did so much for the reputation of Halo that it's still remembered fondly by fans to this day. The marketing for Halo felt more like it was part of a cultural event than advertising for a video game. Now, I'm no expert on marketing, and I'm sure there's way more nuance to this than I can yank out of it, but I see Halo's marketing success being directly attributed to two things. Those being emotional engagement and sheer badassery, both of which we can see so distinctly in the aforementioned Starry Night trailer, where they work together perfectly. Every great Halo trailer has something that got the viewer emotionally engaged, be that the two kids talking about the universe, or seeing the effects of war on a young soldier. These were brief but extremely compelling narratives that grabbed the audience's attention. Contrasting this, Starry Night changes gears in an instant from a peaceful nighttime field to a chaotic war zone. At this time, video games like Halo were usually seen as violent power fantasies, the sort of thing that parents thought would infect their young children's minds and turn them into sociopaths. These trailers and their brief impact managed to add just a hint of depth and intelligence behind the alien slaughter. They managed to convey the power fantasy aspect of the game without showing any combat or killing. The emphasis was on getting the viewer emotionally invested in the universe while also playing up the events of the game to the point that they seemed almost mythical.
If there's one reason why we're here, it's because of the Chief.
We knew Master Chief was still in the fight. He gave us hope.
I'm going to take a brief aside here and ask you a question. Have you ever heard of the phrase call to action? This is a marketing term used to incite the consumer to do whatever it is the advertiser wants them to do. Click now, ask your doctor, subscribe, you know what I'm talking about. What I'm getting at here is that most trailers end with something like,
pre-order now at GameStop.
Blah, blah, blah. But Halo 3, most of Halo 3's trailers ended with the Believe tagline and the release date. Halo's call to action was the engagement you had with the media. That's a level of confidence in your product that's really hard to find. But by golly, those bastards knew what they had. Briefly, I want to touch on Halo 2. It bears mentioning because it shows what video game marketing looked like before Halo 3. Halo 2 had a pretty good presence in gaming news cycles before launch, hence spawning the infamous 2003 E3 campaign demo, which fans still clamor for now. The main trailers that floated around felt like they were really trying to drive home that Independence Day vibe, where this was an alien invasion of Earth. I'd say that does a good enough job of hitting that badass feeling, but it doesn't have any big emotional engagement for the audience, so it's pretty easy to forget. And honestly, it sort of played exactly into the negative stereotypes of video games at the time, being mindless, shooty, gunny simulator gamies. That being said, without Halo 2, we'd have no Halo 3, so there are no real complaints from me. ODST, while in many ways being a glorified DLC, was able to capture so much of the magic that was present in Halo 3's marketing, not to mention getting to ride directly on its coattails. We Are ODST is easily number 2 in my Halo trailer rankings, and if Starry Night wasn't such a blessed piece of media, it would be head and shoulders above everything else. Also, the animated announcement trailer really captured the essence of ODST, so much so it feels like I'm injecting the game into my veins. Damn, I want another ODST so bad. Come on, Joe, you know you want to. Halo Reach had some good stuff for sure. The only thing is that this is where that perfect combination started to wear off, and to be clear, it was by design. Halo Reach was a very different story than the previous 2 entries, and while these games had much more of a hopeful outlook, this game was meant to be dark. Let me start by talking about the main trailer that everyone thinks of. Deliver Hope. By all means, a great trailer. It tells a brief little story about how the old Noble Six dies and shows what the tone of the game will be like. But it's still somewhat missing that badass power fantasy feeling from Halo 3. Again, this was by design. Reach's story is meant to be more tragic by nature. It's not meant to be a hopeful game, so it's not like this was an uninformed decision. The problem, if you could even call it that, is that these trailers just don't have that same call to action that Halo 3 did. And for the record, I love these trailers. The Day Before does a great job at humanizing the people caught in the fall of Reach, and it's very engaging. The thing is, it just doesn't have that G-Fuel gamer energy that Halo 3 became known for. Halo 4 was going for this whole mysterious vibe, and Ancient Evil Awakens, man, that's a mouthful. It was fine. It wasn't super memorable. I think Halo 4's marketing was about as good as Reach's, no big complaints, but it still didn't hit that same high as Halo 3. I don't want to pick it apart too hard because it wasn't bad. It was fine, but I do want to point something out really quick. I was obsessed with Halo during this time, but before making this video, I could barely recall anything about the marketing. At the same time, I can distinctly remember Dead Space 3's In the Air Tonight trailer. And honestly, it did a better job at capturing Halo 3's energy while also having the mysterious vibe Halo 4 was going for. Halo 5's marketing wasn't bad either, at least in terms of the marketing itself. It's just a shame that it wasn't remotely representative of the game it was marketing. Halo 3 resonated with me so much because it's exactly what I want in a video game. It's a power fantasy, not dissimilar to what Doom is today, but it combined that with a sense of reservation. Halo 3's story is no Mona Lisa, but there's enough depth that it isn't just a testosterone-filled killing frenzy either, and at the end of the day, Halo wasn't trying to be deep, it was trying to be fun. The beauty of the old Bungie games was that they left a lot of the world building and story unsaid, leaving the gaps to be filled in by the player's imagination. It was simple, and in almost all aspects, it was just trying to be fun above anything else. It presented itself in a way that just about perfectly appealed to teenagers of the day, with the Breaking Benjamins, and the Mountain Dews, Doritos and Slurpees, Burger Kings and Super Bowls. But it wasn't just going after cool factor either. Halo presented itself with a sense of dignity, almost self-awareness, and handled its marketing in a way that was appealing to people who didn't play video games. That was a hard line to ride, but at least for a time, Halo did it better than anyone else. If you had the pleasure of being a Halo fan during the late 2000s, seeing your favorite video game plastered on just about every street corner, you felt like you were on top of the world. There was a cultural zeitgeist behind Halo at the time, with a booming community and a sense of belonging. Friendships were made, sub-communities flourished. That's why Halo isn't dead yet. People built up so much around the franchise that even when it's functionally not the same, they stay for that sense of belonging. That brings us to the present, and I've got to say that, in terms of marketing, I think we're headed in the right direction. Infinite's trailers have been the closest to capturing that Halo 3 feeling since ODST. I don't think that Infinite carried itself with as much grace, but that can be written off as blind nostalgia, and I'm still genuinely excited to see what comes out of the hype machine next. Hopefully that's not too long. I'm Jeremy, thanks for watching, bye.